So, I'm going to take a moment to speak on a rather big topic that not only affects the Christian world, but affects the secular world as well, and that is pride. Now, I know that the Catholic Church came up with 7 deadly sins, but in my own thoughts, there is only one sin that stems all of them, and that would be pride. Now, pride is an issue because we like to, as I've said in other videos, we like to put ourselves up on a pedestal, up above other people, when that's not how it should be. We're supposed to work as a collective. And if you see yourself as purely an individual, you will place yourself above other people based on what you perceive you're able to do. And then that leads you to a place to judge others. And now, within the holy book for Christians, the Bible, this is a no-no. You don't get to judge other people to that extent. But speaking through a secular mindset, that seems to be an issue too, but not as much. A bunch of arguing goes on, but nothing's ever really done about it. It's a lot like chasing your own tail, expecting things to be different, but they change form, and that's it. So, when it comes to the topic of pride, we are supposed to die to ourselves within Christianity. And in dying to ourselves, that allows the Holy Spirit to speak through us, not us speaking for the Spirit. And this is something that within the secular view is a hard concept to grasp. I guess the closest that would come to it is ego death, but I don't believe in ego death because the ego doesn't die. We're egocentric creatures, and that's why as a Christian we are supposed to crucify the flesh, which is crucifying the ego. And if you don't do that, then you're not doing what Christ asked you to do. And if you're unable to do that, then you're not following what Christ said to do. If you judge someone based on something you yourself have done, you don't get to do that. You can speak upon it in a kind manner and try to persuade them not to engage in those activities, but it doesn't mean you get to tell them outright how to be. That would be your ego coming through. And as much as we want to correct and keep people on a good path, we can't force them. That's not something that we should do. And a lot of people want to give Christians a backlash because that's what Christians tend to do, is try to force their views on someone else. Now, it's one thing to, say, post messages such as I do on your personal Facebook account and people share them out. That's fine. That's not forcing anything. But people will perceive that as a forced initiative because they don't like the message. So the matter of pride comes through again because of perception, how people perceive what you put out. And people are not going to like what a proper Christian, or in my view, I should say, a proper Christian does. We don't force our views, but we do talk about them. And this will agitate people because they don't want to hear what we have to say, because it cuts deep to what they want to do, which is they want to believe in whatever they believe, and our belief undermines their belief, but their belief wants to undermine our belief, and it ends up being a back and forth type combative argument. There's really no real conversation. It turns into an argument, and that's never really okay once it devolves into an argument. So when it starts to get to the point where emotions become involved within it, that's when we as Christians need to pull out. We need to back up, because ego involves emotions, whether good or bad. Because Paul says to be content at all times, and now I'm paraphrasing here, to be content at all times in any situation, for through Christ everything is possible, and through Christ we get strengthened. And this is something that we need to understand, that once we start getting emotional, draw back, hands off of it, because that is a snare of the devil. And the devil. Yeah, I'm saying the devil. If you don't like the message, you don't have to be here listening to it. But the point is that we need to crucify our flesh. So, as I was saying, we need to crucify our flesh, because everything emotionally stems from our inability to discipline ourselves as we were instructed to do. Everything spiritually, such as salvation, that's already taken care of. Our job is to make sure this body is an acceptable host, because there are many things that we cannot be partaking in if you want to be perceived as a Christian by the secular world, because we're supposed to be perfect, this, that, and the third, which just isn't the case. It is a daily struggle to walk in the same path that Christ did, because he said, "Be holy as I am holy," or in some versions it said to be perfect as I am perfect, I believe it was. It was some type of variation on that. And we just need to be more conscientious of how we act, because people will read us, not the Bible. And even when they read us, the chances are they still won't care, because they only want to judge, because they live in the flesh, they live in the world. They will not listen to what we have to say, and that's just kind of the end of the story, because people are going to believe what they want to believe. Those who are willing to hear will more than likely hear. Those who don't want to hear, they're more than likely not going to hear. But at the end of the day, Jesus said to go spread the good news. So that's what we are supposed to do, and we're representatives of Christ. We are where heaven meets earth, and there will be many people who will reject that out of pride, out of arrogance, and out of ignorance. But that is on them. That's not on us, unless we misrepresent Christ. So let's try not to do that. But we're not perfect. Only Christ is perfect. But at the end of the day, keep in mind that people read us, not the Bible.